Hi, I'm Zanzi. You are listening to Farmers Inside Track, proudly brought to you by Food Forum Zanzi. I am Patricia Timbo, your host, and welcome to episode 539. So, animal feed accounts for a huge portion of production input costs. So, in today's episode, we're going to be looking at the most efficient, practical ways to maximize poultry feed. This episode is said to be both informative and practical as we welcome Kamohelo Tobejani, who is a poultry farmer as well as a agriculturalist. Kamohelo Tobejani, welcome to Farmers Inside Track. It's so great to have you again on the podcast. Welcome.
Thanks very much for this opportunity once again. I really appreciate your efforts and always inviting me to this podcast.
Kamo, you are a agriculturalist, so you're qualified, you have your qualifications in agricultural management, but you're also a farmer, you're an agripreneur. For our audience who maybe don't know about the work that you're currently doing, and just a bit of a background of who you are and the work you are doing in the space, give us an overview, please.
My name is Kamohelo Tobejani. As you have already mentioned, I'm a poultry farmer based in Sirishani in Limpopo, whereby I raise broiler chickens, then I sell them when they are ready for human consumption. I sell slaughtered one and also live chickens. I package them nicely so that I attract customers. I also do offer information for those who want to start farming.
Yeah, you're being so humble. You didn't even mention your business's name, so Gamo's Farming Enterprise.
Yeah, it's Gamo's Farming Enterprise, which was established in 2021 after I graduated from University of Limpopo. I'm holding bachelor's degree in agricultural management from University of Limpopo.
I know that's right. Yes, halala. Okay, let's get right into it. So today we're looking, of course, at poultry, given that is where your experience is and your area of understanding. And with poultry farming, there are a lot of farmers who are seeking out resources and ways to scale and just to make their businesses more viable, but also sustainable. And a part of that is feed, of course. Like, it's a big part of any livestock production is the feed you're putting into it. What are the key components of a balanced poultry feed, and why is this important for the bird's health and productivity?
The vitamin, minerals, and also protein, they are very important, especially protein, because it play a very important part with growth. So meaning that your feeds must contain those vitamin and minerals and also protein, because they support the growth of your animals and also improve the production. If you don't have, your feeds are not having those key components, you're going to experience high mortality rate and your animals will take time to grow. And then meaning they will result in loss of production.
I'm quite aware as well that with feeding animals correctly affects the bird health. So if you're not focused on vitamins, minerals, and proteins, could this make your birds more susceptible to things like diseases?
Yes, because those vitamin and minerals, they play a big role in improving the animal's health. If they are in lack, they will cause nutritional deficiency. You find that your animals are lacking protein, the growth rate will be slow. But again, for layers, there's a lack of calcium. The eggshell will be too weak because the calcium improves the eggshell.
We're speaking about birds, that more specifically looking at broilers and layers. I suppose you're going to go into more detail about broilers. But when you're looking at the both different kinds of farming with the birds, how does feed formulation differ? Is there a difference between what you'd feed a broiler and a layer?
Yes. It depends with the age. All the broiler from day 1 up until day 14, give them starter. From day 14, you give them grower. Then the layer from day 20 up until they've reached that stage, they're no longer producing eggs. You give them laying mesh. Because the feed formulation will depend with the type of animal. It depends with the type of also the age, because you can't give, but again, if your chicks, they've just arrived today, then give them grower. No, they won't grow. You have to give them the starter. Give the broiler the laying mesh, because the laying mesh is meant for layers.
All right. So it sounds like you get different formulations of feed, right?
Depending with the type of animal and also the age.
The age.
Or the production.
Okay. And when you're looking at the formulations, is this written on the packaging?
Yes, it is. Hey.
The farmer who's listening knows now that the feed depends on formulation. But of course, when you go, it's easy to be scammed almost, the really poor quality feed. So when you are sourcing your feed for your birds, how do you ensure that it's of good quality and standard?
So you have to buy it there. Where you're buying feed, you have to make sure that the person is reliable, the business is registered, and also complying. And you also have to check the packaging, the nutritional information on the packaging. Those are things that we have to take them into consideration. You don't just buy anywhere. Say, I'm selling feeds. Hey, they're not even branded.
But I'm sure in the more informal markets, for example, if you have your poultry business, but you're not near an agricultural supply store and someone is selling feed on the road, is that not a good idea?
If someone just comes saying they're selling chicken feed, but I think you have to look at their smell, their texture, the expiry dates, those kind of stuff.
Please talk us through those factors like the smell. What kind of smell is a red flag? Texture, what's a red flag?
If the feeds are wet, you hear them by smell. Or no, these feeds are smelling bad. Or they will develop some mold. And the texture, they'll be sticky, not fine and wet. It seems like these feeds they are not of quality because the texture, they are not fine, they are sticky, they are wet, they're even smelling bad. And you can also check the expiry date.
That's important.
Very important.
Why is the expiry date important?
If they are expired, meaning the feeds are no longer for good quality, meaning they might hamper your chicken's health. They might hamper the chicken's health, yes.
You mentioned protein earlier, so let's get a bit more into that. When you look at the building blocks, right, of feed, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fats, how does that contribute to feed conversion ratios of the bird?
They play an important part. They improve the growth rate of your animals. As I've already mentioned, all those vitamins and minerals, they play a very important role. Let me give an example for layers. If your feeds are lacking calcium, meaning the eggshell will be affected. They also play important for bones.
How do you determine the growth rate of your birds and how will you know it's because of the feed?
You can weigh your birds from day one. You can weigh them. And for broiler chicken, they should be weighing 2 kg. You can use your scale to see if your birds are gaining a weight or they are not.
Maybe if you can break that down, because now with this conversation we're having, we're trying the idea is to explain this to a farmer who really doesn't know these things. So when you want to check the growth rates and see if your feed is sufficient for your birds, talk us through those steps, please.
Me personally, I really don't weigh my chickens. But what I know or what I can tell other farmers, if you suspect that they are not growing very well, you can weigh them and see any difference every week. If they are 100, I think you can not weigh all of them, maybe take 5 and see if their weight is different.
So when we're looking at the feed, it's requirements, because we've spoken about the growth rates now, but you get different stages of the bird's life. I suppose you get it as a chick and then it grows. So what kind of feed is required for each stage?
For each stage of growing. We have starter, we have grower, and we also have finisher. So starter, you give them from day 1 up until day 14. Then from day 14, then you change to grower. Then after you give them 2 weeks, the grower. Then you give them finisher.
And this is all labeled on the feed?
Yeah, the information is written on the feeds, but I don't give the finisher my broiler. I just give them starter and also the finisher. Rather than the grower.
Why?
Because the finisher is containing less amount of protein.
Because nearing the age of slaughter, is that?
Yes. It's when you have kept them for a longer period. And you also have the maintenance, which does maintain their body weight. In most cases, we don't use maintenance.
In which cases would you use the maintenance and feed? Yeah.
With maintenance is when you have kept them for a longer period, you're just maintaining their body.
Would that be when a farmer, maybe they've had delays with supplying to the market?
Yes, they have kept them for a longer period.
And the finisher, when would you use the finisher feed? Because you said you don't use it. So when is it used?
When they are 5 weeks, but I normally don't, yes.
The feed costs, of course, we know feed is very expensive. I'm assuming it's the biggest part of
Yes.
of your input costs. So how do you manage expenses when it comes to feed so that your business is still profitable, but you're not compromising your birds' growth and health?
The feeders that you're using, you just have to make sure that you avoid spillage of feeds. Because if find that some of the farmers, their feeders are not in a good standing, then they end up doing barking feed spillage, and also the storage to avoid your feeds developing some molds. Also, you must avoid overfeeding your birds.
So it's overfeeding, spillage, and storage.
You might find your storage, mice having access to your storage, meaning they will destroy your feeds. It's not in a good condition. Find that during rainfall, your feeds are getting wet.
When it comes to overfeeding, how will you know that you're giving your feeds too much food? And also on the opposite of that, how will you know if you're giving them too little?
When you're giving them too little, you see them they are not growing very well. And then some of people, they just overfeed them, trying them to grow very fast, and they end up dying if they consume too much feed.
Does the behavior of the birds give you an indication of the feed? Say when it's really hot, do birds eat less? Or when it's cold, do they eat more? Is that something that affects how they eat?
When it's too cold, they normally eat less. If your house is too warm, they will eat. But if your house is too cold, you find them not eating, trying to warm up each other. But especially when they're too young. And also it will affect their growth rate if they're not eating their time, not eating, just bundling.
Thank you for sharing that. I am assuming that the reason that they eat less is to conserve also the energy, because you use energy to digest. So when you're cold, you also need that energy to stay warm.
Yes, and meaning that energy that should be converted into growth will be converted into the heat. It will result into low growth rate.
To round up this conversation, the basics of when it comes to feeding poultry, what are some of the common feeding mistakes that you've seen farmers make, or what feeding mistakes have you made in the past that you would want to tell another farmer?
Transition, whereby you see different brands. Today you bought this brand, the next thing you're changing another brand, it end up affecting their growth rate. Maybe go to the shop, if I know the brand that I bought last week is too expensive and I'm not having enough money, then you opt to another brand, affect their growth rate.
Oh, okay. So changing from one to another
because those brands, they have different nutritional information.
Yeah,
nutrients are not the same.
That makes sense.
And another one is having 220 amount of protein. The other one is having 180.
So a farmer needs to stick to
the same brand. You don't just introduce it. You don't wait them to be finished and introduce them to the new feed.
You transition them into the new feed. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if there's anything else that you think is very important for
another thing I think is not monitoring the feed consumption. So you just give them feed. You don't even watch them if they are eating or they are not eating.
So you have to keep record also of how.
You have to keep the record. Yes. You'll know if they're eating or they are not eating very well.
By keeping record of their feeding, can tell.
Or just monitoring. You have to check what your chickens are eating, the amount of nutrients, the same. Different brands, they have different amount of nutritional information. And another thing is also barking. They have to adjust their feeders according to their birds' weight.
How do you do that?
Adjusting those feeders.
And to the birds?
They have a rope. Those feeders, some of them, they come with a rope. When they go, then you adjust to avoid the spillage.
Okay, so it has to be according to the bird's height. So it means that it will change as the birds grow.
There was this point where you mentioned about buying feeds from registered, but I think you have talked about the feeds, the quality of feeds.
Thank you so much to Kamohelo Tobejani. For more information on this topic, you can definitely visit www.foodforumzansi.co.za. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. From myself, Patricia Tembo, our technical producer, Megan van der Vent, and the rest of #Team Food Forum Zanzi, Thank you for listening and keep growing with us.